This affects all our districts in different ways, but I want to talk about the schools in my district. I want to talk about how devastated they've become because of the environmental narrative that has occurred across the state and the lack of the ability to generate resources and therefore jobs. And so when we talk about my districts, we talk school districts within my district, we talk about the communities that are there and the closed businesses. You know, colleagues, I've said this before, but over 70, in the school district that I'm on the board of, which is the Port Orford Langlois School District, over 70% of those students on free and reduced lunch. It's the 8th most impoverished school district in the nation. But when we talk about impoverished school districts, it seems to be lost in the narrative because it's in Southwest Oregon. You know, colleagues, when I look at the districts around my area and region in my House district, I look at the innovations that they're doing. The school district in Coquille, for example, and their early learning is amazing. And they're doing more with so much less. They're even building a facility for early learning and the ability to watch younger students and bring them in at a younger age. But what that does to the community in Coquille is it allows both parents to go to work and support their families. So when we talk about revenue reform, I'm all for the conversation, but you must understand there is, in my opinion, and I spoke about it last week, there is a huge disconnect when revenue reform, Mr. Speaker, is talking about taxing small businesses. And taking that tax credit away from small businesses is not cost containment. And we spoke about that last week. So when we talk about revenue reform, we need to also understand that rural Oregon is hurting even more, in my opinion, than the urban areas. And so are our districts because of the lack of natural resource jobs, the lack of the increase in minimum wage, and then last week's votes on a tax on small businesses. And now we have discussions about ending the rural health provider tax credit, which is an incentive program to get folks to move to rural Oregon to provide the very health care for the students that we're talking about today in this bill. And so I look forward to having that cost containment conversation, but it needs to be a conversation on true cost containment that doesn't affect rural Oregon like these quote-unquote cost containment strategies are having. Revenue reform is necessary, but first we need to have a realistic cost containment conversation. And when we had that discussion last week on this floor to raise over $190 million, I didn't hear any conversation about it going to schools. I repeat, I heard no discussion about those dollars going to schools from our small businesses.